Tony, this is one for you. Dan Leary asked or stated that he would love to see what your weight room workouts look like during the summer. You want to commentate on that real quick?
I don't coach football anymore, and I don't coach summer track. I do not have summer weight room, but I will revert back to some things I tell. Let's say I took a football job and there's an S&C guy, and we had our first meeting, and he say, "Coach, what do you expect out of me?" And I said, I want my young kids, my youngest kids in the program, I want them to learn how to lift. That I don't care about chasing numbers or building huge strength and size. I want them to be taught how to lift in the weight room. The most important thing for a young athlete. And then for the rest of them, we want to be general in the weight room. There's too many people who try to get specific, which means that, oh, we're going to do this lift because it makes you fast. And there is no lift that makes you fast in the weight room. And that really breaks the heart of S&C people. But strength is still good. I mean, you need to lift. Everyone needs to lift. Old people, 65-year-olds like me, I lift twice a week, and I probably should lift 3 times a week. So even though we're staying general, we are going to lift. And then here are the parameters. The first thing is never let lifting interfere with speed training. And people who are in the S&C people are like, what does that even mean? I'm like, well, we time shit. Like we time stuff, and if we have guys coming out slow the next day who are sore from your workout, then you interfered with my speed work. And they'll say, well, gosh, when can we really like crush their legs then? And my first thing would be, I don't know if you need to crush their legs, but if you do, let's do it at the end of the week after speed training is over, so they have 2 days. So that way you avoid messing with speed. Because I think if you mess with speed, you mess with performance. No, I don't think that. I know that. If you mess with speed, you mess with performance. And if you're not performing in practice, then I don't know what you're doing in practice. You're just like jogging around and like like some half effort. No, it'd be high effort, high fatigue, low performance stuff, which is kind of like traditional football. High fatigue, low performance, the grind, all that. And then the other thing I always tell the weight room people is, and this is kind of like uniquely maybe a track coach, is your lifting program should never interfere with somebody's sport. And I say that because there are so many football coaches in Illinois who are just the most obnoxious, stubborn, not Brad, obviously, obnoxious, stubborn. I could come up with a lot of really bad words, egotistical, selfish. And what they do is, yeah, you can run track, but you have to lift with us first. And then they like limp out for their track workout. That's not good for the kid. Let him be a track athlete. So, I always say, don't let lifting interfere with a kid's sport. Don't let lifting interfere with speed. Keep lifting general, speed, extreme, practice specific.
Brad, anything you want to add there quickly?
Yeah, I mean, I always say like coaches would never go into a weight room blind. They always want a big, drawn out, written out program. And it's all about adding weight to the bar, and they track every rep. They track every, if you put extra 2.5 pounds on, it's all, but those same coaches a lot of times will go out and condition, but then never track any type of jumps, any sprints, even any change of direction stuff. They just assume that whatever they're doing in the weight room is making them faster. And I used to be that coach that would time with a stopwatch at the beginning of the summer and then time with a stopwatch again at the end of the summer, and never see if anything that we did throughout the summer was actually working. So when you're programming your summer, you need to understand, what are we after? And for most football coaches, it's more strength. We got beat because we weren't strong enough and we weren't tough enough. And so we go all in on strength and expect that to check the box of everything. But there are times that it's okay to go after strength. And then there's times where we want to chase speed and we want to chase positioning and we want to change of direction. And there's a place for everything. So for us, how we set it up is we try to work speed when our guys are the most fresh, like I talked about, whether that's coming in on Tuesday after 4 days off, or that's coming in after we specifically had a Wednesday workout, whether that was, footwork, change of direction, Tony Villani, game speed stuff, and what we did in the weight room, primed us for a great Thursday speed day. And then the other thing we do is our fastest athletes that are going to hit the top speeds, when it's time to run fast, they go to the track first. Now, we don't broadcast that and say, hey, you're in the slow group, you're going to the weight room first, because we do different days. And when we do change of direction, we might switch the groups when it doesn't really matter. But when it's time to perform, and it's time to perform jumps at max height, or max distance, when we're trying to sprint fast, those kids are going to do that first. We're checking those boxes first. And then if there's some things that we do in the weight room, that might fatigue them a little bit, we're low volume even in the summer, that we can come back the next day, but we always do that secondary. And like Tony said at the beginning, the freshmen are on it. The crazy thing, and I used to do it too, is when we have a day one max and the freshman kid comes in and puts a bar on his back and tries to, squats, whatever. And then, they improve their squat by 100 pounds because they learned how to lift over the summer. And then, that's what we clap and say, hey, this kid gained 100 pounds on their squat max. Well, did they get faster? Did they jump higher? Did any of those things happen? And I think that's where we kind of miss the boat still in a lot of areas, is we don't track anything other than whether their max goes up, and we chase that above. I think some guys, and Tony will say this, like they'd rather lose doing more than win doing less. I think some people would rather get slower as long as they got stronger. And if what they were doing in the weight room wasn't making them faster, but they believed in it, they'll keep doing that, instead of saying, okay, hey, this didn't work. We've done this for 3 weeks and our guys have gotten slower and slower and slower. Maybe we ought to change it up. But if the pounds are still going on the bar, I think that's where people they feel comfortable in that realm. But in reality, in my opinion, getting someone stronger in the weight room is 100% the easiest thing that you can do in terms of strength and conditioning. Getting someone faster is a lot harder.
Brad, I was going to add to that. I don't know if I told you, but Chris Corfus spent like a week with the Detroit Lions, and he wrote all their speed protocols for the next year. And I believe it's Mike Clark up there, a veteran. We met him down in Dallas when we had a TFC. Anyway, great guy. He's been in the NFL for a long time. And he said something to Chris that I'll never forget. He said, basically in the NFL, we've been doing the same thing seemingly forever, and we don't make anybody any better. And so here, this guy that is one of the most veteran S&C people in the entire NFL. And by the way, the Lions, one of the most progressive teams in the NFL, hired him. And they're like thinking like you and I think, it's like, if we're not making our athletes better, we can't just keep telling them, trust the process. And the whole idea that an incoming NFL player has a speed that is somehow immutable, that will not improve and will not decline, is an absolute falsehood. And so the things we're saying, this is not just high school stuff. This is NFL stuff. There's some $1 million S&C coaches in the Power Five that are barbaric, strength only people.
Yeah, I mean, I shared with Tony a story. So I've speed trained a college athlete, Division II, for the last couple summers. He left me last summer hitting almost 22 miles an hour. He called me up a week and a half ago and said, hey, I'm back for the summer. I'm like, all right, well, let's bring you in and see where you're at. Of course, been living in the weight room. I mean, 4 sets of 10 on front squat. Can bury a 405 front squat, just no speed work. Everything is heavy weight room. Ran 2 fly 10s under 20 mile an hour and 1 right at 20 mile an hour. I mean, that's a 2 mile an hour difference in a college S&C program that is in Division II, and they do 0 speed work. And he comes to me, some high school coach in Illinois, to get speed work, and the kid is strong enough. If you can bury a 405 front squat you are chasing minute strength gains for a lot of negatives with it. And this kid is an All-American kid. And if the coach says, hey, I want you to squat 485 by the end of the summer, he's going to do it because he wants to please the coach and so forth. So, he sent me his programming and I don't ever talk bad about a coach. I just said, hey, send me what you're doing. Let's figure out where we can fill in some gaps and or do some things to limit the damage on some of the other bilateral, because the S&C world, it pretty much everywhere lives in the bilateral world where nothing that we do in sport is bilateral on the same, 2 feet. And Chris and Dan Fichter have talked to me a lot about how doing things bilateral paralyzes the cross crawl pattern in the brain. And if you live in that world, then you're going to have a lot of deficiencies in your movement patterns. And that's what I'm seeing. And it's crazy that what we consider the highest levels, they may be the furthest from, what reality should be.
And one last anecdotal thing, a guy that played for my son, Alec, at Edwardsville High School, was a top 3 hurdler in the state, super fast, came back and talked to, he's playing for the Eagles now. He's actually team captain 4 or 5 years ago. But anyway, he came back and talked to the team, and he said, if I gave you any advice at all, it would be don't let them take away your speed. As soon as you go to college, they're going to try to put weight on you. And he said, me personally, I've never been as fast as I was in high school. And this guy is a defensive back for the Philadelphia Eagles playing at the highest level. And he knows he's a step or 2 slow because no one has nurtured that speed. And when I think of like doing that same crap to 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds who we don't even know where their ceiling is for speed, that somehow to never work on speed and only work on, like how much can you lift, just stunts their growth.